Welcome to the first UGoveRN Study Day in Zuidas. It is an ambitious undertaking that relocated Amsterdam's financial hub to the southern part of the city. As we will stroll together, we will pause at significant locations symbolizing your affiliation with governance. And at each stop, we invite you to share your personal insights on the importance of governance and explain why you opted for this specific spatial representation. I selected this space around the Upmarket Valley project and the Amsterdam Football Club just next to it, as this area demonstrates the collection of governance efforts of residents, property developers, investors, and public sector planners very well.
What is governance to me? What is spatial governance to me? And I think that I would go into how space governs the sociality in which it exists. What I find interesting here is what we're being told through this space. We're being told that this enterprise, which is part of this power axis at the Zuidas, is also very green.
Like governance, or for me, it represents what is the output of interactions between all the various stakeholders that are engaging in a property development process. And I felt that this was an interesting space because if you notice that accenting the space wasn't that easy, unless you know this place really well. You wouldn't know how to get here.
So my own understanding of governance is the process of coordinating organizations and institutions. Turn around and look at all the houses that you see around here. It is interesting to see very different forms of housing. And also to see basically the border between the Zuidas project and the adjacent neighborhoods.
There are two things makes me help relate to governance issues about this area. The first is a room for public spaces. And the second point, when I think the governance, the networks and policy networks are coming to my mind.
The way different actors create a particular order, and this creates a certain network, and these networks are always in movement. Their position is often quite precarious, so they often have to prove that they are the real representatives of the neighborhood and negotiate with civil servants and developers that have a lot of time, have experience.
Governance, because that's the topic. It's what's behind that, what makes it possible or not possible, and what is the relation between really the physical space that me as a designer, I design together with, of course, Gemeente or developers and all the other actors involved.
And how I look at governance is how different actors interact and how they perceive each other. I look at how areas are converting from single use, like for example Zuidas, to mixed use. So one new actor I'm seeing in my real estate work is with knowledge economies is universities.
Same game. So I want to talk about governance more from a perspective of looking at how different actors transform along the way of the process of kind of getting involved in a development.
and that's very related to what I'm looking at for my PhD case, but in a different way.
The statue is called Love or Generosity by Nicole Eisenman. And when I first saw it, it made me feel weird too. And I'm thinking of it, and I keep thinking of it because I'm also relating it to the governance perspective. I have the feeling that this should be the gatekeeper of this courthouse. It is supposed to give a friendly feeling, a generous feeling. It holds out things that you might want, and it tries to put people at ease. But I don't know if it really does. It's a 5 feet tall giant. And for me that also symbolizes law as governance. Law is a monolithic type of governance, a lot like this building here. And this man, which is already imposing enough, is trying to give a gentle feeling, but it's still a 5 meter long giant. It also crushes. This hand is enormous. And that is also what happens, of course, in this building.
I chose this specific place because I kind of see it governance as a process of change, and I kind of think actors, and it is a change coming from government. In a way that it kind of encompasses more other sorts of actors at this moment than it did, let's say, 50, 60 years ago.
To me, urban governance is all about allocation of resources, space, and power among different groups. Transparent, accountable, embracing different needs, claims to urban space, resources, and power.
Adaptivity, and how can governance be adaptive to certain public issues also in time. It's only temporarily in use, so they had a contract for about 3 years, and they knew, the volunteers knew that from the beginning, that the space was only temporary since.
And I feel why this signifies governance to me is because I'm interested in real property, not from the real estate angle, or the law angle, but from the fact that property is about all different types of connections. And the brands that work with them, all these a-traditional actors that we don't see within those spaces, and how we can regulate all those different actors within those spaces. So like a cemetery has many people in it, properties have many actors involved in them. And it's not only the traditional actors that we should be looking at when we're regulating those spaces. So for me, governance is really about all these actors that are involved in these spaces, just like the cemetery.